Mediokr Best Sports Podcast, Realistic Randy. So last segment we talked about the grades on the offensive and defensive sides of the ball. I broke down each position group as far as how I felt they've been doing. They've gone into the bye week with a 6-2 record. And I wanted to save the quarterback position for last. This deserves a segment in its own because, first of all, we're going to talk about Case Keenum and his play. Now, I am very aware of how critical I was of Case Keenum. I've said it over the last couple of podcasts. I've been proven wrong. My whole thing was we should bring in Colin Kaepernick for at least a workout because that game in Pittsburgh that Case Keenum had where he said he was prepared, he looked god-awful. And much to my surprise, he has done a fairly good job. In fact, he's been very impressive, quite honestly. He's done a great job. He hasn't been great. I mean, he's not the second coming of Joe Montana or anything like that, but he's done a very, very good job. I will give him that. He's been better than Christian Ponder ever was for the Vikings, so I will give him that. He's been stretching the field. He's thrown a couple of passes where you're like, all right, come on, man, what are you doing? But for the most part, he hasn't screwed up. I'm looking at some stats here, and for this season so far, he's thrown 7 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. That's a pretty good ratio. I mean, I'll take that any day of the week, especially coming from a backup quarterback. But something that I found interesting on Pro Football Focus, Case Keenum. So we're talking about, this is an article that Football Focus made. Title is Best Quarterbacks on Throws Outside of the Pocket. So ranking quarterbacks outside of the pocket, best quarterbacks outside of the pocket. The third-ranked quarterback in the league throwing outside of the pocket is Case Keenum with 114.1 passer rating. That is outstanding, man. That is amazing. And so when you consider that, and then first of all, credit to Pat Shurmur, not only for introducing the zone blocking scheme for the offensive line and making them play well, but allowing these receivers to routes to develop and everything like that. But now suddenly you got a quarterback who's a lot more mobile than Sam Bradford is, that even if he has to roll out once in a while, he can still make those throws. He's done a very, very, very good job. And so far, he's led the Vikings to a 5-2 record while he's played. And the thing is, one of those losses, the Detroit Lions, I don't blame it on him at all. My thing was Jarrett McKinnon. He dropped a surefire pass that would have got a first down. That was a bit of a bummer. There was a lot of key things that happened, a lot of coaching mishaps. There was a lot of things that happened that was not Case Keenum's fault. Case Keenum was the last person that I was thinking about. But the only loss that I do put on him is that game against the Pittsburgh Steelers in which he said he was prepared. But other than that, as far as what I'm concerned, what his record to me is 5-1, not necessarily 5-2, because like I said, there were other factors involved in that. So now you're looking at this, and especially when you compare that to last year, the offense as a whole, because last year they were pretty much bottom of the league at everything on rushing and passing. As far as completion percentage, okay, yeah, when you're dinking and dunking all the time, okay, great. But now this year, they're pretty much league average at everything else, which I will take. I'll gladly take that. Minnesota Vikings, they are 13th. They are 13th in rushing yards a game. And they are, let's see here, Minnesota Vikings are 14th in passing yards per game. So 13th in rushing and 14th in passing. I will take that compared to bottom of the league like they were last year. Case Keenum has done a miraculous job. He's surpassed all expectations that I and quite frankly everyone else has had. Don't say everyone said, oh, Case is going to do a great job. No one said that. No one said that, and don't sit here and try to act like you did. But he's done a very, very good job. So now the question is, moving forward, there's a lot of rumblings right now with the fans and with some media outlets. Should Case Keenum be the automatic starter for the rest of the year, regardless of Teddy Bridgewater's status? And to that, I say absolutely not. Look, Case Keenum, he's done a great job. There's nothing to take away from that. But as far as should he just be, like, here's the thing. I'm not going to sit here and say, throw Teddy Bridgewater out there just for the hell of it, just because you like him more. And I know Mike Zimmer has hinted at that. I hope I have a decision to make after the bye week. If it was my decision, I would not put Teddy Bridgewater out there against the Washington Redskins coming out the bye in week 10. I would not do that. My whole thing is put Teddy Bridgewater out there naturally. Put him out there once the stars align. Don't just put him out there just because he's a fan favorite and people just seem to love him. And real quick sidetrack, for everyone that's saying, oh, I don't understand all the fandom with Teddy Bridgewater, here's the deal. Teddy Bridgewater, with a god-awful offensive line and an out-of-date offensive scheme that was geared towards Adrian Peterson, was still a great quarterback, was still a damn good quarterback, was still I believe the 9th most accurate quarterback in his last season in 2015, and he was a proven winner. He had that it factor. My whole thing now, and I would imagine that a lot of Teddy fans feel the same way, if you get Teddy Bridgewater's never had this offensive line, as far as what Football Outsider says is the 4th best pass protecting offensive line in all of football. Teddy Bridgewater's never had that. You give him this offensive line and Pat Shermer instead of Norv Turner calling the dinosaur offensive plays that he was doing, I think he would do a lot better job than what he did in 2015. So all I'm saying is the upside with Teddy Bridgewater is still there. You don't know what his ceiling is, actually. So why not see? And you're going to have to make a decision on him at some point, because here's the deal. He can be an unrestricted free agent. I understand you can put the franchise tag on him, but either way, you're going to have to make a decision on him. So here's my thing. As far as should you just take Case Keenum out and throw Teddy Bridgewater in now that he appears to be healthy? Absolutely not. I think you owe it to this team. You owe it to this franchise. You owe it to the fans, quite honestly, to put the best product out there on the field to give your team the best chance to win. And right now, that is with Case Keenum, as I was proven wrong. Now, here's the deal. If there's a situation where Case Keenum, if he gets hurt or if he looks bad out there in the game or something like that, and you're getting smashed by like 20 points by the Redskins or the Rams or whoever, then go ahead and put Teddy Bridgewater out. Because here's the deal. Case Keenum, he's been in practice. He's been practicing with all the first unit teams. He's been practicing with all of them. He's getting all those reps in. You don't want to disrupt that just because you like Teddy so much. So here's the deal. As far as those people that are saying Case Keenum's the automatic starter and there's nothing to talk about, and I've seen some people say we should give him a 3-year deal, and I'm saying, whoa, you should hit the brakes right there. He's done a great job. But to sit here and proclaim him as the automatic starter without a second notice to Teddy Bridgewater is absolutely absurd. You know who Case Keenum is right now? Case Keenum is the second coming of 2013's Josh McCown. And here's why. If you remember in 2013, the Chicago Bears, Jay Cutler went down. Josh McCown came in. He had the best season of his career. Let me bring up some numbers real quick. Josh McCown, in that year, 2013, when he had to replace Jay Cutler. Now, that was a legit argument you could have made as far as, do you ride the hot hand with Josh McCown or do you bring Jay Cutler back? Now, ultimately, they brought Jay Cutler back. And even though Josh McCown was performing well, they brought in Jay Cutler and said, all right, Josh McCown, you've done well. Go ahead and take a seat. We're going to bring back Jay Cutler. Ultimately, they finished 8-8 and they missed the playoffs. I would have stuck with Josh McCown. He was absolutely phenomenal. The rapport that he had with Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey was just absolutely amazing. Josh McCown, during that time, we replaced Jay Cutler. He had 109 passer rating, threw 13 touchdowns to 1 interception. I'm trying to see here as far as yards per attempt. It doesn't say that. But anyway, 13 touchdowns to 1 interception, 109 passer rating. That ratio, that is unbelievable. His completion percentage, his completion percentage was 66.5%. Compare that to Case Keenum right now. 7 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. Okay, not bad, but that's a hell of a lot of a difference compared to 13 touchdowns to 1 interception and an 88, almost 89 passer rating. Okay, that's pretty good, but again, I would have stuck with Josh McCown in that instance. That's not the same with Case Keenum. If Case Keenum was lighting it up like Josh McCown did in 2013, I would say, you know what, dude, look, Teddy Bridgewater, I love you, dog. But, okay, maybe we'll franchise tag you. Okay, we'll just see how this plays out next year, maybe. But as far as this year is concerned, I would ride the hot hand with Case Keenum. But the fact is he hasn't been doing that. He's been very good, very efficient. He's done a great job. He's exceeded all expectations that we've all had for him. But as far as should Case Keenum just be the guy for the rest of the season without thinking? Absolutely not. You keep him going until he screws up or he gets hurt. Then you put Teddy Bridgewater in. I want to see what Teddy Bridgewater can do with this offensive line, with this offensive scheme, with Pat Shermer calling plays. I want to see what he can do. Now, the moment that happens where Case Keenum, where everything falls apart, you bring him in. But here's the thing. If you bring in Teddy Bridgewater just because you love him so much and just because he's a fan favorite and he doesn't look great, because there's going to be a learning curve with Teddy Bridgewater. I would much rather there be the learning curve with Teddy Bridgewater where we're getting blown out by 20 points, something like that. Or if you have no choice, where Case Keenum gets hurt, then you can throw him out there and you have no choice to say, okay, Teddy, go figure it out. I don't want you to necessarily if you're Mike Zimmer, I wouldn't bring in Teddy Bridgewater just to bring him in and then have that learning curve while we're on a hot streak right now. We're at 6-2 right now. I wouldn't do that. I think they should be very responsible. You owe it to this fan base. The Will family, they said they want the Super Bowl to be hosted by the Minnesota Vikings in their own stadium this year. You owe it to this fan base to put the best team out on the field. So we'll have to see how they look as far as the rest of the season is concerned. I do believe that this Vikings squad, now here's the thing. We're in the bye week. We're in the dreaded bye week. We know what happened in that 5-0 start that we had last year, and everything just went to hell. We finished 3-8 for the rest of that second half of the season, finished 8-8 on the year. Now here's what we got for the rest of this season. Got the Redskins after the bye week. I believe that should be a win. Now, they're at FedEx Field, but I think they should win. I think this defense will absolutely tear Kirk Cousins apart. Kirk Cousins is a glorified stat machine. I absolutely get that. But this defense is going to be way too much for him, in my opinion. The Los Angeles Rams, I have no idea. I'm not going to make a pick on that team, but who knows? They could win. They could not. I'm not going to make a decision on them because Jared Goff has looked good. Todd Gurley all of a sudden is an all-around running back now that Jared Goff has stepped his game up. So I'm not going to make a pick on that. The Detroit Lions, you should absolutely win that game. In fact, you should have won the game earlier this year. But anyway, with all those mishaps, hopefully they tighten up from there. The Atlanta Falcons, they'll be at the Atlanta Falcons. I have no idea about that game, quite honestly. The Falcons, they've been underachieving as well, so who knows? They could get that win, but I wouldn't be surprised if they lose that game. The Carolina Panthers, they should absolutely win that game. Matt Khalil is the left tackle for Cam. First of all, Cam Newton is not an accurate quarterback at all. He's having a pretty horrible year. In fact, he's only had for everyone that was all on the Cam Newton train that Super Bowl year, and they're like, oh, he's like LeBron in the NFL, and he's going to be great for years and years to come. And I said, no, he's going to come back down to earth. He's not an accurate quarterback. He doesn't go off his first, second reads. He pretty much locks on his receivers and then maybe scrambles around and try to improv from there. You should absolutely win that game. And the fact that Matt Khalil is your left tackle, Everson Griffin should get no less than 3 sacks in that game. Cincinnati Bengals, they should win that game as well, but I wouldn't be surprised. Actually, no, they should win that game. I'm going to go ahead and give them that win. Green Bay Packers, they don't have Aaron Rodgers anymore, so they should win. And the Chicago Bears, depending on how this Vikings squad look, maybe they decide to rest some players or how seeding goes, they should win that game because Mitch Trubisky is still their quarterback. He's still learning with that. So as far as just objectively looking at this, I can see the Vikings going 12-4 or 11-5, worst case scenario. That's what I see. Based on the rest of the schedule, I see a 12-4 or an 11-5 finish, which would be very different from what I predicted as far as somewhere between 7-9 and 9-7. Now, here's the other side of the factor. That's looking at things objectively. As far as if you look at this team versus this team, then this should probably happen. And looking at everything like that, but it's the Minnesota Vikings. I'm not going to get excited. I'm not going to get my hopes up because every time I do this, you get your heart shredded out here. And by the way, can we cut Laquan Treadwell so we can get a kicker that can make extra points? I like Kai Forbath to make the tough field goals, but damn it, he can't make extra points. So anyway, how this looks, this team should be primed to make a good run in the playoffs. That's if they don't fall apart. But again, we're in that bye week. Let's keep everything tightened up together, and we'll just go from there. As far as Teddy Bridgewater, I hope he does come back. Case Keenum, he hasn't been the second coming of Peyton Manning or anything like that. He's been pretty good, but as far as if he just the automatic starter and let's give him a 3-year contract, that's what happens when you're a Vikings fan and all you've got to look at in the past is Christian Ponder and Tavares Jackson. So anyway, we'll just have to see how the rest of the season goes. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can subscribe on YouTube or iTunes. You can like the Facebook page, facebook.com/realisticrandy. We do this podcast once a week. We'll see you next week.